the first practice session and the second practice session of the 2025 Singapore Grand Prix just took place. Let's go through and review the two sessions and see what we have learned, and then we will quickly move over here to make the race predictions. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be something that nobody has ever expected. It's gonna be wild because of both of the practice sessions and the insights that we have gleaned from it. One of the first things is that Fernando Alonso is quick, and he has been quick in both of the practice sessions. He has just found more and more time, particularly on the softs. The mediums, not that shabby either, so whatever tires they put on, they seem to work. I don't recall Fernando doing a good hot lap on the hot tires, so I guess that one is a little bit of a question mark, but judging by how stable these motherfuckers are on softs and the mediums, they are going to be competitive in qualifying and in the race. Fernando is definitely in contention to be in the top 5. Next is Max Verstappen. Obviously, we have to talk about the dark horse who can take the world championship away from the McLaren soy boys. Obviously, it's just still too far away. I'm pretty aware of that. I'm not retarded. I'm just saying. So Max Verstappen is actually pretty close to the McLaren boys than we all thought. Now, obviously, he's not going to close any gap to the McLaren boys, judging by the pure pace of the McLaren. The McLarens are generally quicker. In qualifying, Oscar Piastri is nearly a tenth and a half faster than Max Verstappen. Obviously, this timings are going to change. The track is going to evolve, and drivers will find more time, including Max Verstappen. So we don't know if this is like the final gap between the two. But it seems that in general, Max Verstappen is a little bit behind, but not that behind both of the McLaren boys, which means two things. First, Red Bull are still developing the car, still optimizing the car, still spending resources on the car, because 2026 is a big question mark, especially with the engine thing, right? So it's a big question mark, so they're still going at it. And after the last 2 weekends, after Monza victory of Max Verstappen and Baku victory of Max Verstappen, we thought that, okay, if in Singapore Max is competitive, then we will say that the pace of the RB21 is now legit. Now Max Verstappen can definitely fight for wins and pole positions and all that type of stuff consistently for the remainder of the season. It seems that it is the case, right? Right now, maybe he's not going to win Singapore, okay? I'm not saying that. There is still a possibility, but I'm not saying that. But you have to admit that Max Verstappen is way too close to McLaren than most people have thought, which means that in the remaining 6 races, he will be like genuinely in the mix for the win. And based on pure driving skills and ability alone, he's going to outperform the McLaren boys pound for pound if you have to bet based on the relative pace of the RB21 and the McLaren. So that's a very exciting thing because it sets us up for the remaining 6 exciting races after Singapore if Verstappen finishes behind the McLaren boys. So we will talk about that in a different video. I don't want to get sidetracked. But after Max Verstappen, another concerning thing is about Yuki Tsunoda. It seems that Azerbaijan performance of Yuki was kind of like a unique scenario because he have now again fell back nearly a second behind Max Verstappen over the course of a lap. Who are flying are Isaac Hadjar and also Liam Lawson, who fucked it into the barriers, but he was on a banger lap. Like the lap that he was doing, he had a purple middle sector. So I mean, it's really unfortunate. This is not like the representative pace of the Racing Bull. Isaac Hadjar put it in the front row. This is not qualifying, but I'm just saying he qualified, not qualifying. He finished second in the classification. So this is also a thing that I predicted. I predicted that if something happens in qualifying and the McLaren boys get a bit jittery, or there's a gust of wind and they lock up, or they get impeded, or like whatever, right? If the McLaren boys don't have the ideal or perfect qualifying, they can be behind or around both of the Racing Bulls. Obviously, Liam Lawson is a little bit question mark in qualifying, but whatever. And the Racing Bulls will be instructed by Red Bull to get in the way of the McLaren and slow them down as much as possible in the race, so that Max Verstappen will have the strategy advantage and all those things. Yuki Tsunoda is not going to be of any help, but instead of Yuki Tsunoda is going to be Isaac Hadjar. Helmut Marko has also said that Isaac Hadjar is one guy who's definitely keeping his seat, and he deserves to, man. Like, how quick is this guy? How fast is this guy? It's unbelievable. It's genuinely unbelievable. And I'm all here for it. Now, Lando Norris, I mean, to be honest, if I were to go about my knowledge of Lando Norris's driving so far in 2025 season, I think he will be ahead of Oscar Piastri. I think this is a race where Oscar Piastri loses some points to Lando Norris. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because Lando is usually good at this mathematical tracks like Singapore, right? In Singapore, there's like basically one ideal racing line. You cannot really play around by, usually on driver circuits like Imola and I guess, what else is a driver circuit? Monza is also a driver circuit. Zandvoort is also a driver circuit, like free-flowing Spa, the Belgian Grand Prix. Those are driver circuits. So in driver circuits, you have a little bit of a freedom, right? A few sequence of corners, you start it a certain way, you end it a certain way, you experiment with different kind of racing lines. There's a little bit of creative freedom to the driver. In mathematical tracks like Singapore, there's basically one racing line, and the closer you are to following that racing line and that racing driving pattern, like you accelerate a certain way and you upshift or downshift a certain way, the closer you get to that ideal mathematical time, your lap time becomes better and better. And in those type of tracks, Lando Norris has the advantage, over Oscar Piastri. So yeah, in second practice session he was behind, but in generally speaking, I think he's going to be ahead of him. And Piastri is now feeling the pressure. Piastri is feeling the pressure of the World Championship because he needs to deliver. He knows it. And a critical thing that I've seen, it happened in the first practice session for sure. I saw Oscar Piastri clipping the wall in the final sector somewhere. And in second practice, I don't remember, but I think he got to the wall pretty close, I think in turn 16. Just like exiting out of turn 15, you take the wider line. And I think he just brushed against the wall or something. So there is definitely something to look at. I mean, he did crash at a street circuit, fucked it into the barriers in qualifying, and he has now touched the wall twice, if my memory serves me correctly. In FP2, I think he did. But anyway, so that's basically the most important thing, because right now Lance Stroll is here. So it means the Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin space is legit. The top 10 is going to be wild. One pair of drivers that have always disappointed is both of the Ferrari drivers, and the reason is, for some reason, the soft tires, they just couldn't make it work. They were competitive on the hards, competitive on the mediums, but they were nowhere on the softs, and this is why they are like 7/10 behind the rest of the field. But here you can see Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton right up there, competitive lap times. Leclerc did it a bit later, so I guess the track was much more improved, and also Leclerc is a motherfucker around one lap. So in FP1 things were good, but here they were kind of competitive in the medium tires, but something happened in the softs. They just couldn't make them work. They need to find some pace in that soft. Lewis Hamilton abandoned both of his laps, and Charles Leclerc abandoned one of his laps, if I remember it correctly, which is weird. And yeah, and after that, these guys are going to be behind. Mercedes are absolutely horrendous. I thought that Mercedes will struggle a little bit, but then I thought, you know what, they may not, because Singapore is colder. Yes, it's not gonna rain during the race, but still the atmosphere is colder. It's been cloudy and rainy since a couple of days, so the temperature problem is not going to be that big. So I thought they would be more competitive, but unfortunately it's like they were still nowhere, which is sad. They will lose point to Ferrari if Ferrari can figure out a way to make use of those soft tires. So that's a big question mark, and I don't know. So hoping that Ferrari fixes that shit, but yeah, I mean, because they do have good pace. So let's go ahead and figure out the top 10 in the Singapore Grand Prix. So first, I'll just tell it from the top that who are the guys who are going to score some points. I will say Max Verstappen will score points. Both of the McLaren drivers will score points. Both of the Ferrari drivers will score points. Isaac Hadjar will definitely score points, my main man. Unfortunately, my other favorite rookie, actually my most favorite rookie is Oliver Behrman. My second favorite rookie is Isaac. Either way, Oliver is unfortunately not going to score any freaking points. This guy might. So that'll be interesting. Then we have these two problems. The thing about these two guys and him is that if he qualifies well, nobody can overtake him. It's Singapore. And if this guy is behind him and this guy is great in qualifying, and if he is behind him, then he's just going to copy his strategy and then, like slam dunk. So it'll be interesting top 10. They are definitely not scoring any points, and neither are these two, let's be absolutely honest. But these two guys are definitely in contention. But Lance Stroll is going to qualify P20, so it doesn't really matter. We will start with a Max Verstappen victory in the 2025 Singapore Grand Prix. Let me land, okay? Let me land. If you guys are laughing right now, you have to let me explain why I believe this thing. So what happens is, he's not going to qualify on pole. He's going to be behind Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. No, Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris, and Charles Leclerc at the start of the race. And that's a problem. So in qualifying, Lando Norris pole position, Oscar Piastri P2, Charles Leclerc P3. He will have the best start of all three. He's going to slip in the middle. And listen, so Lando and Oscar will have great getaways. And Lando will move over to Oscar's side in order to cover him. But the best start will be from Charles Leclerc. So Charles Leclerc will come in, and then these three guys will have a crash, take each other out. Max Verstappen, who would start P4, is going to win this Grand Prix. Both of the McLaren drivers are going to DNF. This is a bold prediction, I know, predicting that someone will crash, but I'm just, I take risk like that. So these three guys, and unfortunately Charles, are not going to score any points, but fortunately this will keep Lewis Hamilton, his first podium. He's gonna have a P2 in the 2025 Singapore Grand Prix. I have not updated it. Should around 17. Fuck me. This is very unprofessional from me. I didn't expect that shit. Anyway, I apologize, gentlemen. There might be a lot of people with OCD who have been watching this from the start, and they're like, why the fuck it still says 16? And I apologize to you guys. Anyway, next I want Fernando Alonso P3, because he does have the pace. It's all about qualifying right now, and Fernando is going to qualify well. This you know what this practice session reminded me of? This reminded me, and the first one also, the first one and the second one, both of the practice sessions reminded me of the qualifying of 2023 Monaco, where Fernando was P2 and he was Max Verstappen was on pole position. That back and forth, like it reminded me when these guys were separated by barely nothing. It just reminded me of that. So Fernando Alonso definitely in the mix. Really unfortunate for both of the McLaren drivers to get into a collision with Charles Leclerc to have a DNF, but that's how the game goes sometimes. Next we will have Isaac Hadjar. He will try his best to overtake the great Fernando Alonso, and he will graciously fail at it, and he will learn a lot about defending on the streets of Singapore. This is going to be a great, amazing lesson for an amazing rookie, future world champion for sure. Isaac Hadjar for president. We move on. Now I'm really enticed to start discussing about these two guys. But the thing is, here's the thing about these two guys. The thing is, Williams have a curse. So one of these guys will actually score and the other guys will have a really miserable weekend. Because that's how it goes if you look at their history. When but like both of the drivers were kind of decent. They have a shit car, and when the car is kind of good and kind of competitive, then one of the drivers crashes out. Now they have both of the drivers who don't crash out and a car that is not shit, and now they're stuck with reliability problems. The first practice session, this guy was sitting out. In the second practice session, both of them kind of struggled a little bit, but Alex Albon he seems hopeful, and they do have some good pace. Carlos Sainz definitely in the top 10, and Alexander Albon didn't really have a good time. He sat the first one out, so you cannot say anything. So maybe in the fringes of the point, I will put, because I'm feeling a bit generous, Carlos Sainz, the smooth operator, will be P9. That's what it is. That's what it's gonna be. Next, we have to put in the window licker. You cannot ignore him at this stage. He is a good performer, and the car genuinely has pace. If Lance Stroll is putting it in P6 and people are DNFing in the front, then he definitely is going to bring it home in P7. Oliver Bearman, because the Haas is a good race car, in qualifying they're going to be horribly behind, but a good strategy and timing the safety car perfectly will help Oliver Bearman score a point. This is not biased. Nothing here is biased. I don't want Max Verstappen to win the championship per se, but this is how the race is going to be, so I have to say what the real prediction is. I'm definitely not putting my favorite drivers in the podium positions and my favorite drivers in the points. Like, this is how it's going to be going, because Charles Leclerc, I like him a lot. I am gunning for, I initially in my previous videos when the season started, I was really hyping up for Oscar Piastri, but then the title fight between himself and Norris was stale as fuck, and then he says some shit, and it was just boring. So I'm like, what, Max is good. So either way, next point scoring guy, who's it gonna be? Liam Lawson for P8. That's it. That's what's gonna happen. Because with all these people going out, these 3 key point scoring drivers coming out, is going to be amazing. And now, for George Russell, we will have a dope P6. And at last, who are we saying? Who are we sending all the way up to the front? P5. Who is capable enough? I think Yuki Tsunoda is going to do it, man. I genuinely believe he's going to do it. He's going to finish behind the Racing Bull, but Yuki Tsunoda is going to find some performance. He's a second behind Max Verstappen because he had the same problem that the Ferraris did with the soft tires. He couldn't just fire them up, but yeah, it is what it is. I think he's going to do it. So this is my top 10 prediction, and it's going to happen. Lock it in. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.